The Cleveland Cavaliers. When you think of the Cleveland Cavaliers, you think of one man and one man only. LeBron James. LeBron James is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know they were good at their time in the 90s with Mark Price and Brad Daughtery, but for a good majority of my audience, you think of LeBron when you think of Cleveland. LeBron as the Cavaliers meant absolutely everything to the franchise, bringing them their first ever championship, 5 finals appearances with the team, and the many records that he owns right now with the team. But when he ended up leaving the Cavaliers, the question was, how was the Cavaliers going to find an identity post LeBron? The first time when they ended up losing LeBron, it was basically impossible for them to bounce back, but the only good thing coming out of it was Kyrie Irving. But this second go around, they went again struggling big time to being contenders in a 5-year span. So as usual, as we do in these retrospective videos, let's look back on what has become of this rebuild from an impossible situation from the Cleveland Cavaliers after LeBron James left them for a second time. As usual, this will be a long one, so sit back, relax, and be sure to like the video and subscribe for more videos like these. You already know who it is. Roll it!
3, 2, 1.
Weights in the weight room, so he stitched up in the left. He can do it all that.
But before we start, did you know that identity theft is committed every 14 seconds and is currently the fastest growing crime in America as we move on to the digital age? Well, if you don't want to be a victim of that, let me introduce you to today's video sponsor in Aura, the jersey sponsor of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and your ticket to having a safe experience online with its built-in use of identity theft protection, fraud monitoring, a VPN, password manager, and antivirus software, all combined into one easy-to-use app. With Aura, it'll monitor the dark web for your emails, passwords, and social security numbers, and sends alerts fast right to your phone or email address. And it'll also give you near real-time alerts on suspicious credit inquiries, like if someone was trying to open a loan or a credit card in your name. All of this again in one simple and convenient app that you can use today if you use my affiliate link in the description or comment section below, where if you do, you'll be able to try it out for 14 days for free and protect yourself from America's fastest growing crime. Thank you again to Aura for sponsoring today's video, and let's get right into it. On June the 18th, 2018. The Cleveland Cavaliers lost their 4th game in a sweep to the Golden State Warriors, and LeBron James lost to the Warriors for the 2nd year in a row in the NBA Finals. While NBA fans everywhere were groaning about another finals ring for the Warriors and another bad Cavaliers versus Warriors finals bout finally being over, one looming issue was left for NBA fans to figure out. LeBron James' 3-year, $100 million deal has officially expired, and it was time for him to re-sign. However, on June the 29th, 2018, where he declined his 1-year, $35 million player option to stay with the team, NBA fans everywhere wondered, where would he take his long-term deal ambitions with? The Cavaliers or go elsewhere, as LeBron at the time was turning 34 and was still somehow in his prime. And trying to convince LeBron to stay, the Cavaliers in the 2018 NBA draft drafted Collin Sexton from Alabama to try as one last saving grace to get him to stay. And Collin had himself a great idea, as we all remembered from his draft interview.
Hey, let's do it. Let's go back to the finals.
Look at this dude. Wait till you see the. No.
But unfortunately, that didn't work, because on July 9th, 2018, LeBron James goes to the Los Angeles Lakers to start the end of his long career to go after another championship and leave Cleveland with the sinking ship he created to rot. Because on this team were loads on top of loads of bad contracts everywhere to appease LeBron. Tristan Thompson, $16 million, $13 million to J.R. Smith, and a $20 million deal for George Hill when he was traded to the team the year before. But here starts the official post-LeBron rebuild. In the offseason of the 2018 NBA season, the Cavaliers went to work to try to fix their cap situation and bring more youth to the team. But first, they made a rather interesting move, re-signing back Kevin Love to a 4-year, $120 million extension with the Cavaliers. A move that he would soon regret slightly, but you can imagine why. In that season, he was coming into his 30th birthday, and Cleveland would be the place that would give him the most money before he ended up regressing. Plus, he also enjoyed the city of Cleveland, unlike Joakim Noah.
What's so good about Cleveland?
But other things to include is signings to Rodney Hood and Larry Nance Jr. and the firing of Tyronn Lue as they started their season 0-6 with him. However, the 2018-19 season was an interesting start to the rebuild, and for many reasons. First, the rookie season of Collin Sexton, where he showed why he was considered to be a top pick in the draft with his scoring ability as he averaged a near team high 16 points a game on solid splits. Jordan Clarkson off the bench did the same thing, averaging 16 points a game, showing really good potential as a sixth man for the Cavaliers in the future. And Cedi Osman, a rookie from the year before, improved greatly in his first time being a primary starter rather than on the bench role he had last year, even to the point where Basketball Reference had him as the guy who was ready to replace LeBron James in the future. Sorry, my guy, but I just had to make that joke. But anyways, the main thing they wanted to do was tank, and that's exactly what they did, going 19-63 and getting the 5th overall pick in the next year's draft for their troubles. Overall, though, they did what they were supposed to do, try out their new young guys to see what would stick or who would go in the future, and they was able to unload one of their large contracts on the team in George Hill to the Milwaukee Bucks and lost games to get their near top pick. So let's see if it gets any better. Now we are on to the offseason before the 2019-20 season, and with the first draft since LeBron has officially left, the Cavaliers are now upon another important decision. Who to draft in the 2019 NBA draft. At the 5th pick, they was unfortunately out of the big 3 race, but brought in best players in the draft like Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett, and John Morant. At least they was thought to be at the time. We have to see how the rest of things go in the future. Shut up. So they have to try and find another great player due to the automatic top 3 being taken as you'd expect. And with the Cavaliers taking an interesting pick in Darius Garland from Vanderbilt. Darius coming into the draft had the upside of one of the best point guard prospects in the last 10 years due to his immense amount of skill at the point guard positions, and due to that, people gave him Kyrie Irving comparisons, which is kind of crazy, but considering how he's playing now, it ain't too far-fetched. That's how skillful he was with the ball coming into the draft. And just like Kyrie, he had a season-ending injury, which he sustained to his knee at Vanderbilt. But before he was injured, he showed off an immense skill at the point guard position, averaging 16 points on very efficient shooting splits. And you could argue the reason he was picked because he was the best available player at the time, because a lot of the players outside of him had a lot of question marks in their own way. Garland had the most upside, and that's why they went with him. But with even how good of a prospect he was, they still had Collin Sexton, who they drafted before. But with them two together, they ended up getting the name Sexland as their new backcourt duo of the future. And at the same time, while drafting three-point shooter Dylan Swindler, they also traded for another good prospect in Kevin Porter Jr., who was one of the more electric scorers in college basketball the year before. However, they had to deal with his demerit in his character, his attitude, and temper that got him kicked off of his college basketball team at USC off the court. But with that draft also done, they also signed Coach Joe Boeheim, who I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that name right, forgive me if I'm not, who will be an interesting character to talk about later. But with the great draft class over and done with, the Cavaliers were ready to get into their second season since LeBron James left the team and ready to lose more games. They even dropped off another big part of LeBron James' ship in J.R. Smith before the season started. But this season was full of interesting storylines that didn't look great for the future at the time. But first, a positive. Collin Sexton makes another huge jump in his career, averaging 20 points a game on really good shooting splits. 47% from the field and 38% from 3 on 4 attempted threes a game. But that basically ends the positives because this season had a lot of negatives. Firstly, let's start with one involving one of the picks, Darius Garland's rookie season. Now, I'll be the first to say that I like Garland as a player since he hit the NBA, but I know that rookies seasons are kind of up and down. You really don't know how to judge some of these people, but I would say for him, his rookie season was the epitome of average. While Collin Sexton was torching NBA defenses, Darius, the point guard, was figuring out how to run an offense. In his rookie season, he averaged 12 points and 3 assists a game. Not anything eye-popping, but I'd call that pretty solid considering how he was coming in with a messed up knee, potentially, and how he was actually having pretty decent shooting splits while doing it for a rookie guard. But what made him infamous that season was the claim for him to be one of the worst NBA players in the NBA due to, and some of y'all were grown with me after hearing the reason, advanced stats. According to advanced stats, he was one of the worst players in the NBA due to his combination of league worst when it comes to win shares at -1.3, a whatever the hell a value over replacement score of -1.7, and a league's worst box plus minus of -4.38. Now, as someone who plays basketball, numbers aren't everything, and all numbers have a story behind it, but it's safe to say that he wasn't all that bad to be regarded as the worst player in the NBA. But due to that, some people really were against him for what ended up being a pretty alright season with a lot of positives as a rookie point guard's first season. But for the other rookie in Kevin Porter Jr., he also had good moments on the team, but negative number 2 was the coaching of former college coach Jim Boeheim. I'll make this short since it doesn't go towards the whole rebuild part, but basically, the coach who was hired in mind to help the development of young players, as was thought because, you know, he was a coach at college at the time, so you thought that he knew how to talk to young players. However, it was anything but that, as he continuously lost the respect of his players, treating them like college kids, and if you don't know what that means, let me, a former college player, tell you what that means. Basically, he thought he could talk to a bunch of grown men any way he could without repercussions. He even made them do unnecessary cardio and suicides in the season. You know, the grueling 82-game season you have to manage your body to get through, that type of 82-game season. And lastly, during a film session, he mentioned how his players needed to not play like thugs when he actually meant to say slugs. And considering how his players were probably like 85% or more black, yeah, he definitely lost the team at that point. And then he swiftly was fired for someone who would be the foundation of why this team would do so good in the future, Coach J.B. Bickerstaff. But we'll get to that one later. Lastly, let's talk about the development of Collin Sexton. Now, I know I just mentioned his amazing scoring efforts, but one area he lacked as a player was his terrible passing ability as a player. Even since his college days, he has been a negative if he isn't making shots due to the fact that he can't distribute the ball. But now, since he's in the NBA, that only makes his case a lot worse. This year in particular, he averaged 3 assists on the dot a game and 2.4 turnovers a game. That is a damn near 1-to-1 ratio on his assist to turnover rate. But as long as he becomes a shooting guard of the future for the team and Darius Garland can become the point guard of the future the Cavs need, that can potentially be overlooked. Other things to note is the rebuild is in fact on the way, with Andre Drummond now being a Cavalier due to the trade of Brandon Knight and John Henson. But will the 26-year-old Drummond at the time be a major part of the rebuild with his rebounding expertise? I guess we'll go on and wait and see, even though everybody knows the answer to that, so I don't even know why I said that one. Anyways, due to his incoming extension date coming up, the Pistons did not want to pay his upcoming $28 million player option, but the Cavaliers were willing to take that hit. I don't know, either they wanted just to try him out to see if he would be good, but again, $28 for Andre Drummond is an absolute fucking travesty. Finally, at the end of the season, with JB Bickerstaff showing off what he can do for the team, the Cavaliers ended off their season with a 6-6 record, but overall, they ended their season with a 19-46 record. An interesting season with questionable progress, but the only thing to do now is to enjoy their 5th overall pick of the 2020 NBA draft and make the most of next season. Now we go into the 2020-21 season, the season where some real positive changes start to happen everywhere, and where people start to slowly consider the Cavaliers as one of the best young cores in the NBA. But want me to tell you where that doesn't start? In the NBA draft. The 2020 NBA draft was headlined by one of the weirdest top 3s in a long time, with LaMelo Ball, who played in Australia a year before, Anthony Edwards, a big-time scorer at a bad school in Georgia, and James Wiseman, someone who was supposed to play at Memphis but got suspended for 12 games due to accepting money in college and then left to prepare for the NBA draft. But as the top 3 was taken to their respective teams and Patrick Williams for some reason was drafted to the Bulls, the Cavaliers were back for the 5th pick for the 2nd year in a row. With that, scouts were kind of skeptical about the prospects outside of the top 3, and due to that, the Cavaliers drafted Isaac Okoro from Auburn. Now let me tell you, as an Alabamian and an avid watcher of SEC college basketball, tell you that Isaac Okoro as a prospect did not scream NBA potential. At college, he was a great defender and hustler on and off the ball, and a great cutter to the basket, but outside of that, his offensive game was rather lacking in many ways if it wasn't to a straight shot at the basket. But with the wing and big man depth in the draft being kind of lacking, the Cavaliers took a chance and drafted Okoro to fill in the hole that they had at the small forward position. Because drafting another guard would be kind of dumb with 3 young ones already in the system, and adding a big man with Drummond opted into his contract wouldn't be the best decision either, especially if it turned out to be good and Drummond is still there. So here was the best option, Isaac Okoro. Outside of that, the Cavaliers went into the season once again a new identity with Coach J.B. Bickerstaff in his defense first style. And it made some good strides in some areas, even though it didn't show it on the stat sheet. But first, let's talk about some more interesting aspects of this third season. Firstly, once again, Collin Sexton takes his scoring aggression to another level as he continued to stay consistent and efficient in his efforts, improving once again to 24 points a game with no major drop-off in his shooting splits. However, now his lack of playmaking skills shows to be more of a viral problem, as teams and players alike taunt the Cavaliers for the fact that they have Collin Sexton and how he knows that he will not throw the ball away to a teammate, and reports about his own teammates coming to light about his lack of playmaking skills and how annoyed they are with him. A lot of people said it was Kevin Love. I don't want to believe that. Overall though, he gets buckets but can't give his teammates buckets. Next is the rise of Darius Garland, again the person that was supposed to be the worst player in the NBA due to advanced statistics, but in his sophomore season he showed big improvements in his game, gaining weight and knowing how to use it, averaging 17 points and 6 assists a game on great efficiency, which really showed once again how the Sexland duo can be a formidable duo in the future with the right tools around them. And speaking of tools, let's talk about January 13th, 2021, the day the NBA went quiet as James Harden was traded to the Brooklyn Nets. With the massive trade happening and everybody focusing on the upgrade to the Brooklyn Nets, at least when it came to superstar power, one thing people didn't talk about enough was the acquisition of young big man Jarrett Allen, who at that point was fighting for his starting spot in Brooklyn against the aging, and when I say aging, I mean really aging DeAndre Jordan. But now in Cleveland, at least soon, because Andre Drummond is still there, he could now have a place where he can be the main big man of the team. Jarrett Allen in his time in Cleveland that year made it known that he deserved to be taken more seriously with the Nets, averaging a near double-double while competing with Andre Drummond, who was bought out in March. But while we're at it, we do have to talk about a little bump in the road with the rebuild, and it includes the draft pick of the 2019 class, Kevin Porter Jr. Once again, one of his main demerits as a player is his raging attitude and issues with coaches at times, and at the time, he was taking the season off to handle his off-court problems and personal issues. But tempers flared when he found his locker room moved from newly traded Taurean Prince, and due to that, and him potentially being a danger to the culture, he was traded for a second-round pick, a lowly second-round pick, to Houston. He has a lot of potential as a player, but being a potential team cancer won't make you a long stay in the NBA, but at least he isn't having any troubles with that now in Houston. And finally, the rookie season of Isaac Okoro. Again, Isaac Okoro's mission was to try and find his way offensively in the NBA, as we already knew how good he was defensively, but in his rookie season where he played 32 minutes a game, which literally put him 41st in the NBA minutes played per game, which he played more minutes that season than Ben Simmons, Drew Holiday, and Chris Paul. Okoro was only able to muster up 9 points and 3 rebounds a game. Now, you can argue, how are you supposed to score or do anything offensively by that matter when you have Collin Sexton and Darius Garland on the team, which is definitely fair to say. But other people on the team like Cedi Osman, Taurean Prince, and Kevin Love were all outscoring him in less time and on less shots. Safe to say he just wasn't prioritized on that end, but that just means that he was drafted at number 5 to be a fucking role player, which is kind of odd to say the least, at least with me, but I'm not a GM in the NBA for a reason. Also, I decided to be funny and check to see who had the worst box plus minus in the league in his rookie season, and Lord and behold, it belonged to him with a negative 5.1. If you can't tell, I was very skeptical on that pick in that draft outside of many others. But outside of that, the Cavaliers kept their losing efforts up, ended up with a record of 22-50, which was a tiny improvement from the year before, but still good because they got the 3rd pick of that next year's draft. And with that class being considered one of the most talented in years, there was no way they could miss on a pick like that. At least hopefully. And now we are in the golden ages, or at least the start of the golden ages. The Cavaliers are now off the contracts of J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson. They are seeing the improvements of Collin Sexton and Darius Garland, the future backcourt, and they added in new centerpiece in Jarrett Allen after buying out Andre Drummond. So once again, the NBA draft comes around to add another potential centerpiece on the team. And once again, this class is full of talent and good stepping stones if raised the right way. But mock drafts have anyone going from anywhere in the top 5 with no consensus number 1 pick, but 9 times out of 10, it was Cade Cunningham. But with the number 3 option, top pick Cade Cunningham and Jalen Green were taking 1 and 2, and now the Cavaliers came up with 3. And again, a lot of options were available to consider. With the current composition of their team, they had a clear hole at the small forward and power forward position, which a lot of people in the draft could fill in. Scotty Barnes coming into the draft was considered to be one of the best all-around prospects in the class, and if given the right tools, can become the best player in the class with his vitals and worth ethic. gigantic. Jonathan Kuminga had professional experience already playing in the G League with a lot of upside at the same time, averaging 15 points a game down there. However, probably needed more time with his offensive game, but can provide great defense out the gate. There were even talks about a potential backcourt with Josh Giddey or Jalen Suggs, as Collin Sexton was in trade talks as his contract expired that season. And his value, despite how good of a scorer he was, didn't seem to be all that high since, that's all he could do. So who did the Cavaliers go with the third pick of the 2021 NBA Draft? With the third pick of the 2021 NBA Draft, the Cavaliers pick up All-American power forward from USC, Evan Mobley. With the clear hole at the power forward position, Evan Mobley can come in and create one of the most dangerous and defensively lethal tandems in the NBA with him and Jarrett Allen. He showed that to be true with him averaging a near NCAA high 2.9 blocks a game and getting All-American honors as both an offensive and defensive player, while at the same time wanting to utilize his offensive potential in the NBA, as he was not afraid to score in the paint and had hints of a jump shot. So with that move, it made it more plausible that Collin Sexton's future on the Cavs would be safe. But as we all know, that wasn't the case. Anyways, with that giant dub taken in the draft, trading for Ricky Rubio in the summer for cheap, signing Jarrett Allen to a long-term deal, and one of the more underrated rear moves of the summer was also made by the Cavaliers, as in a 3-team deal with the Trailblazers and Bulls, trading away Larry Nance Jr. and a second-round pick to receive back Lauri Markkanen, which made me and other NBA people confused, as their front court of the future was already settled with Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen. But as we all know, when that first starting lineup of the season became official, we all saw the vision. Putting Lauri Markkanen at the small forward position, creating one of the tallest front courts in NBA history, with 3 near 7-footers being a matchup nightmare for a good majority of teams in the NBA. But with that being said, the 2021 season can finally begin. At first, it was back and forth, losing the first 2 games, then winning the next 3 games, losing another 2, and then winning the next 4, and then somehow dropping 5 in a row. However, this season can be summarized with 2 words: injury riddled. The Cavaliers on paper was a team you should be taken seriously coming into next year, probably not as a finals contender, but definitely as a team that could be dangerous in the right circumstances. However, Darius Garland once again took a step up in his play, averaging 21 points and 8 assists a game, being both team highs. Jarrett Allen became a double-double machine while also being the beneficiary of lobs from Darius. Ricky Rubio was a 6th Man of the Year candidate at one point, averaging 13 points and 6 assists, relieving Darius Garland of his point guard duties as he was basically a starter in a bench role. Evan Mobley was already smothering teams with his overwhelming defensive presence and became a very serviceable offensive player at times. Kevin Love was a 6th Man of the Year candidate in his own right, getting considerations at the end of the season, and Lauri Markkanen was a capable scorer and 3-point shooter for the team. However, many times over the season, things broke down that caused the Cavaliers to never run at their full potential. Over the course of the season, only one player played over 70 games, and that player was Kevin Love. With the rest of the core, well, Collin Sexton only survived 11 games due to a torn meniscus. Ricky Rubio was out all year due to a torn ACL 11 games in, and then you had the other nicks and scars everywhere when it came to the bigs, like a fractured finger for Jarrett Allen that took him out for the rest of the season at the end of the season, Evan Mobley dealing with ankle sprains, and Darius Garland dealing with his labors over a 82-game season. But overall, let's talk about the other components that went into an already interesting season. On February 7, 2022, the Cavaliers with the Pacers created a trade that'll help the outlook of the Cavaliers in the future and help relieve Darius Garland of ball handling duties with his already depleted team, when Ricky Rubio, who was injured by the way, was traded for Caris Lavert. Caris Lavert at the time was coming off a near cancer diagnosis a year ago and coming back putting up solid numbers. So with this trade, it gave the Cavaliers another reliable scorer as the rest of the team was healing. And in his 19 games with the Cavs that season, he still put up his usual play in a mainly bench role. Outside of that, you had Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen becoming first-time All-Stars in Cleveland, the Cavaliers being a top 10 defensive team in the NBA, and even with all the trials and tribulations, they was able to crawl into an 8th seed spot, where if this was the normal NBA season, they'd be facing Miami in the first round of the playoffs. But unfortunately, due to that bald-ass nigga Adam Silver, we have the NBA play-in, where the 7th through 10th seed have to fight for the ability to play in the playoffs. Now, the Cavaliers had to deal with enough pain as it was, and now they have to fight tooth and nail just to make it into the playoffs, a spot they haven't been in since LeBron departed the team 4 years ago. And as we all know, due to the injuries to Jarrett Allen and other players, the Cavaliers lost to the Nets in a game where they could have got the 7th seed due to them giving up 59 points due to a combination of Kyrie Irving and KD, and lost the 8th seed game to the Hawks due to a 38-point explosion from Trae Young. But with all of that, it ends the very weird season for the Cleveland Cavaliers. But despite the injuries from every which way and them not making the playoffs, there is still hope for their future success. 2 all-star appearances, career highs all around, trading for a very capable 6-man, having one of the best defensive players on your team as a rookie, and an impeccable coach in JB Bickerstaff. There was only up from here as the core developed, but no one could have predicted just how quickly things could have gone legit for the Cleveland Cavaliers so soon. And now, finally, current day. But as we all know, we have to get through the summer of dreams first for the Cavaliers before we get into their current situation right now. But to start things off, some controversy in the summer. Collin Sexton once again shows up to the front office after completing his rookie contract, and he is looking for a nice lump sum due to his play, reportedly wanting over $100 million over a 4-year contract length. But due to the concerns I spoke about earlier over the last couple of years, things could never get figured out between the two people. And with stars all over the league being in trade talks like KD, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Kyrie Irving, and others, every team was trying to get their hands on a player who could absolutely turn around a franchise, especially one who is legit one piece away from a contention status in the Cavaliers. But with that patience and not backing down, the Cavaliers found the perfect opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because on September 1st, it finally happened. The Utah Jazz sent star guard Donovan Mitchell, who just turned 26, to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji, the recent draft pick, and Collin Sexton with 3 unprotected first-round picks and 2 pick swaps, while at the same time dealing with Collin Sexton's contract issue as he accepted a 4-year, $72 million deal to play with the Jazz to get that over with. Now the Cavaliers have one of the best backcourts in the NBA with Darius Garland, who just broke out last year, and Donovan Mitchell, a proven leader of a team who routinely led the Jazz to wins and stepping up in the playoffs year after year. Now, when this first happened, everybody's seen this as a win-win, as the Cavaliers basically joined the contention conversation, with Donovan Mitchell joining an already well-oiled machine in the Cavaliers while obtaining depth on the team like Caris Lavert, Kevin Love, Dean Wade, and Ricky Rubio, while the Jazz get multiple unproven young players who are looking to show the NBA they are legit, and Lauri Markkanen and Collin Sexton on a tanking team. But considering how things are going now, the opposite may happen. But for now, it is a complete win-win for both teams with very little drawbacks. But this trade absolutely helped the Cavaliers become legit in the East, as we now know, being very top-heavy with top-grade superstars on every team up there. So the only way to compete is to obviously get your own superstar, and that's exactly what they did. This season is still very early right now, with only 10 games played so far for the Cavs, with them being 8-2 and the second seed only behind the championship hopeful Milwaukee Bucks. And with 2 statement wins already against the Celtics, who just came off a finals appearance, it's safe to say the Cleveland Cavaliers have finished one of the quickest rebuilds we have ever seen after a superstar talent left the team, getting hit after hit after hit in the draft, trading for future assets and young players who will stay on the team to help in the future, and finally using some of those assets to trade for one of the best guards in the NBA, all in a 5-year span. It seriously cannot get any better than that. Now, as the early 2022-23 season continues to go on, the Cavaliers are already taking advantage of an early combustion of teams like the 76ers, Nets, and Heat, who were ruling over the East a year or 2 ago. As long as injuries don't break down this team like last year, this will be the year the Cavaliers become relevant again without a person named LeBron James being a part of the franchise. Again, this rebuild has been beautifully planned out and executed. Even if you want to argue that they got extremely lucky with how things turned out, getting all the assets in the first place to trade for Donovan Mitchell, all I can say is that's just how things can be sometimes. We've seen teams over the years get things from luck, especially in the draft, or you can consider it being rigged, I don't know. But the Cavaliers will be relevant in the East for years to come, as Donovan Mitchell's only 26, Darius Garland's only 22, Evan Mobley's only in his 2nd season and will improve year by year, and Jarrett Allen will only stay consistent as a solid center. Sounds like an amazing core to me. But as always, I hope you enjoyed today's video and learned something new, as my vision for this channel is to inform and entertain. Check out my social medias for the Inside Life of Alvini and other channel news. Check out my Twitch where I stream weekly. And lastly, if you want to talk to your boy, there is always my Discord. Links are all in the description. With all that out of the way, this is your boy, Alvini Linguini, saying peace. Also, with this video coming out before they even do anything, if they somehow fall off, please do not come to this video and be like, this aged like milk.